Welcome to Me Time with Mind Escape Vibe, where it is your time to be kind to your mind. My guest today is a spoken word artist and a blogger of Orange Trails. I have with me today Anaiis Simon, and her blog focuses on meditation, mindfulness, and travel. Welcome. I am so glad to have you on today. Why don't you introduce yourself to the Me Timers?
Yeah, I like to blog about mindfulness, meditation, manifestation, travel. I love to travel. I relate to the people who are nomads and just traveling around either the United States or their country or the world. Yeah, I like to write. I like to paint. I like to throw events. I love doing things. So I'm a doer and a believer.
I love that because that means that you give to people, uplift their day,
I do. Definitely.
and that is together, my friend.
Huh, I appreciate it.
It takes many years for an individual to learn how to pour into others. I was super impressed when we talked, so I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I always start the show with asking, what's your mental victory vibe celebration? And that's something that you've done for yourself to pour into your own cup. What have you done for yourself lately?
So this week I have been doing a lot of just manifestation meditations before bed. So one of my things that I've been really kind of focusing on, especially with doing my business and all of these things, is just attracting the income as it goes. So I've been doing a lot of money manifestations when I wake up. Before I go to bed, it's like a 20-minute audio that I listen to, and I just kind of meditate and pray. I've also been praying with my family a lot lately, so that's been really good. The spirit is reviving.
I love it. So you're just pouring into yourself, just pouring into your spirit and just releasing it all.
Yeah,
Whatever doesn't serve you, you're letting it go because you are only accepting positive vibes. And I love that.
yeah, definitely. So that's been really great this week, and I've been really, just focusing on just my prayer life and trying to get myself together with God. Like that's just what I've been doing.
Believe me, God knows. He
Yeah.
understands and he understands, you know. So what would you say your personal empowerment theme song
So
is?
I have been thinking about this question so much. And lately, which is kind of funny, It's Giving by Lotto. So every time like I hear that song, I just feel so like, man, I got it. Like I can do it. And even when I feel defeated, I kind of just like I've been listening to that a lot lately, just on repeat. I don't know what, but that's been my theme song lately. Like, yes, I got it. I could do it.
That's very impressive because when we talked, you talked about all of the things that you like to do. And I was so impressed with the spoken word and with the events and all the things that you like to do. And I even went out, I've read your blog post, I've been on it.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
I have. I like the tidbits that you drop into people because I think doesn't matter what age you are, you need the information and that's that line of hope, and I just wanted to tell you that. I was like, let me check this out. And you are blogging. You talked about some self sabotage. You've been talking about some things.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned about some of that self doubt creeping
Yeah.
in and what you're doing to give it a different job.
Yeah.
So, for a young person that's like, I don't know if I can meditate. I don't know if I want to spend 20 minutes doing it. I don't know if I want to do this. What would be your advice to that young person?
So this is actually really interesting. I'm actually working on a course for mindfulness and meditation for people, mostly like women who want to get into it, who don't know how to just start, or they hear just close your eyes and meditate, and they're like, "Well, I tried and it doesn't work," and it definitely does. So I haven't dropped it yet. I'm still working a lot on it, but it's called the Mindful Girl Mindfulness Course, And I recommend basically just a few things. There's the alternative way of doing it, kind of just to introduce yourself into it, and then just taking pauses throughout the day. So, the alternative way that I like to introduce it to people, um, with me being a spoken word and creative writer, I
Mhm.
usually say pretend that you are reading a story and you are the main character, right? And not just kind of like what everybody's saying, oh, I'm main character, like I got it, like a book. Um, or whatever, even a fan fiction, people like reading fan fictions. But whenever you're reading those books or stories, um, you think about the details that that person's going through. So, say if they're about to break up with their significant other,
Mhm.
you listen, like you're reading, their heart is pounding, their hands are sweaty, right? The jacket feels heavier than normal. Just all of these little details that you can put into place for yourself today, right now. Like, even
Mhm.
as I'm on this podcast, it's like, I am a little bit nervous, but I'm talking through it. Like the words are kind of just coming out of my throat. I feel kind of clear headed. Just all of those details that you're going through, that is mindfulness, right? That's a form of an alternative form of mindfulness, listening to my atmosphere, what's going on. The birds are chirping, or the air conditioning is running. Like, just all of these little details, and the more you focus on the little details and yourself as this main character, the more mindful you are, the more you kind of want to resonate in that, you know, just that energy there, and you can kind of leeway into meditation. So that's kind of one of the things I like to suggest to people who have never meditated before, who don't think that mindfulness is a real thing. It is, and it's
Yeah,
it's really creative. So
it is. So what you're suggesting is that they have a vocal point. They start
yeah.
with the breath and
Mhm.
start small.
100%.
Not sitting down and saying, I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes because it's not going to happen.
No, no,
Your
even
thoughts are going to wander. Just bring them on back.
it happens. It definitely happens. And one of the things that, because I've been listening to a lot of psychologists and
Mhm.
psychiatrists and whatever lately, and they said, one of the ways you can practice mindfulness and meditation throughout the day is the two breath method. So if you're
Mhm.
about to make a phone call, take two
Two
breaths before
breaths.
you do it, right? There you go. And you just kind of like incorporate that throughout the day. So I like that.
I like it a lot because my mindfulness affirmation cards, they have the affirmation on the front, but the mindfulness tip on the back. And when you start the deck, and you start the deck with the breath as the vocal point.
Hmm.
2
Hmm.
breaths in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, maybe 3 in the evening or something like that. And the more difficult the affirmation it may be, then you have a little bit more. It introduces 1 minute meditations and 40-second meditations. And it's so true with that breath, right? Because taking a step back, taking a breath, a couple of deep breaths, it is a life changer.
It
You
is.
open your eyes and you're like, "Wait a minute, okay." You got a little bit more perspective
Yeah.
because all of that chaos and everything that was scattering everywhere, it's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, that means nothing. Now I'm present in this moment at this time."
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite authors, do you know of Thich Nhat Hanh? He's amazing. I love his books. He passed away a few years ago, but he's a Buddhist monk, and I'm
Okay.
not Buddhist myself, but I do like his teachings. And so I bought his book Happiness, and I listened to his lectures a lot, and I always like push that book. Like, I love it. It was definitely a life changer for me. And he says that your body is the trunk of the tree, and your mind are the leaves, right? So when there's a
Mhm.
storm, you don't want to be in the leaves where there's no stability in the leaves. When there's a storm, you want to be in the trunk, which is your body. So you bring your thoughts back to focusing, again, on the breath, on your body, on bringing the mind home. And I loved that. I thought that was like, whoa, like every time I think about that, I'm like, yeah, that's my boy Thich Nhat Hanh.
Well, we gotta find a way. We have to find a way. I I want to ask you about orange trails and what it means to you. Can you tell us about orange trails and what it is?
Yeah, so it actually my favorite color is actually blue, fun fact. But I was like, okay, blue trails just sounds sad. It sounds like a sad time. So my second favorite color is orange. So I was like, all right. So for my tagline, with orange trails is find your path, leave your trails. Leave your trail. So that's kind of where I mostly got it from like my traveling a little bit and just kind of how I try to create my life in a way that will reflect how I see myself. So I was like, I think Orange Trails is like welcoming, but it's also kind of, welcoming to this journey, like this trail. And that's kind of where I got the name from. And as far as the meditation, the mindfulness, and the travel, it's basically me in one minus the hair because I actually I was trying to find out a way to like put like hair care in there, but I was like, it doesn't fit right now. That'd have to be a separate blog. But literally the only thing I care about is mindfulness, manifestation. Well, obviously my Lord and Savior, right? But he's like wrapped up in there. Mindfulness, manifestation, and travel. Like that's literally me. I try to, be focused on mindfulness. I try to create the life that I really want by working hard, by believing, by, just fixing my mindset. I try to travel as much as possible and not even try. Sometimes I just do. And yeah, I'm all about natural hair. But
Yeah,
that's not
me
it.
too.
Right.
Did you know that orange, it's like a fiery, like red and orange mixture,
Mm,
is courage, means
really?
courage.
I did not know that. And that makes a lot of sense. That
Mm.
goes so well with it. So, yeah, I mean, I think my blog is really just me and one. And I try to encourage people that even though it's scary, it seems scary, and it's not as bad to follow your dreams, to try something different, to go a different path than where everyone else is. It's actually not as bad as you think it is. So,
So
that's
let's talk about that. What made you follow your dream to do this? What made you say blogging and travel vlogging, this is it. I am going to travel the world and I am going to blog about it and I'm just going to spread love. What brought you to that decision?
so as far as travel, I actually moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I'm very much like a big risk taker. It never really bothered me to move around. But I remember specifically, I used to work in this call center like 5 or 6 years ago. I used to work in a call center. And I remember looking around at everybody, right? And everybody was, but they were mostly women. And, they were middle aged, my age maybe, and they've been there for years. And the director, she used to walk up and down the hallway and she was like, you're not going to get anything better than this. Like, you guys should be grateful for this job. Nobody's paying us as much as we are, paying you as much as we are, just stuff like that. And they try to keep you in this cycle. And I was like, there has got to be more to life than this. Like, there's just got to be more to life than this. And I ended up going to another 9 to 5. It was a little bit better, but I looked at this paper one day. And again, it was just the same repeating thing where I'm looking up and people have been there for years, just not following any kind of dream, or they say what they like to do, but it's all just talk. And I looked at this paper and I looked up at the little four walls and I was like, dang, 6 months just went by. And this paper looks the same as the paper I held in my hand 6 months ago. Like
Mm.
nothing's changing. I'm not making a difference. So I ended up quitting right before, like right in the middle of the pandemic. I literally just quit. I was like, you know what? I don't care. I have to quit. I was like, I'm moving to France. I thought it was going to be like soon. Like I'm moving to France immediately. And I was living in Houston at the time. And so I was like, moving to France, da, 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 da. I went through so much turmoil. I went through a lot, but I ended up throwing events. I ended up, connecting with one of my friends, and we used to throw art events and spoken word poetry shows together, which really encouraged me. And I was like, yeah, I can actually make things with my hands. So I started a jacket business. It didn't last very long, but I was like, I can, try different things out, just all the puzzle pieces.
Mhm.
And so then I ended up moving to Atlanta to live with my mom to save money. And I went to France, just all these things. But it really just was the 9 to 5 and the environment and looking around and seeing like I can't just let 6 months turn into 5 years because it's very easy to
Oh, yes.
very easy. So I
Oh, yes.
broke the
A
fourth.
lot of times people put their dreams on the back burner because life calls. Well, you got maybe children or a family or bills. Bills don't stop coming because we are searching out our dreams, do they? So it's very brave to take that step, and it takes time. My kids were grown
Mhm.
before I decided. My grandson was not with me before I decided because I wanted to provide more stability. When you're an entrepreneur, you have stability when you have it, but
Right.
sometimes you don't.
No, you don't. It's not always the same.
And you can't beat yourself up on over it. You manifest abundance. You shift your mindset when that negativity start creeping in. But there are a number of reasons why. But there are some folks that I have no desire to
Yeah.
do something like that. How
Yeah.
would you encourage a young person to say, "Hey, try," even if there's a little bit of fear about taking a risk?
One of my favorite books is like The Alchemist, and that's like kind of where I base my life upon. Basically, about a boy following his dreams. No,
Mhm.
oh, that book! I
Yeah.
love that book. But there is this. There's one of the parts in there, and I am paraphrasing crazily, but it's basically like your dreams are kind of like this ping, right? And it's this ping in the back of your mind, and you learn to follow it, and you learn to trust it, and you learn to, even if it does seem scary. The scariest part about life is when you don't hear that ping anymore because you haven't trusted it.
Mhm.
And that's not where you want to get to. As long as you can still hear that, you know, start the nail business, start your hair business, start a YouTube channel, travel, quit your job, or as long as you keep hearing that ping, then you're going in the right direction. Whether you're making, big changes or little changes, as long as you keep that in there, the scariest thing is to lose it. So you just don't want to lose it. Just keep following, that feeling. So no matter how small.
Intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Intuition. I think, that's so common too. Life has a way of quieting that voice because every time the voice speaks up, you have a counter. I can't do that right now. I got this, I got that, I got a long laundry list of things. That is just not something that I can do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's at that point when you're pushing it off and pushing it, but the nudge disappears. It's the dream gone. Like it's gone. But it's not to say that a person can't bring it back. It's
Right.
about going back within and searching and bringing it back. It's just that life happens.
Yeah.
Life happens. And we have to seek out. I really believe this, especially after the pandemic. We have to seek out something that makes us happy,
Mm-hmm.
that brings us joy. And if that is walking for 5 minutes in the parking lot, or if that is maybe designing some type of art, spoken word, poetry, whatever it is, then do it.
Yeah, and who's to say, like, with walking, like, you walk for 5 minutes and then you get inspiration to start a 5K, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
who knows? Like, but following that, like, starts something else. It always, triggers something else. So that's definitely important.
It is important. It is important. A lot of what you're saying is resonating with me because my nudges for my business started when I was 33.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
had the nudge at 33 and I was like, I can't do it. My kids are still in school. I can't do it. And then at about 40, it was like, hey, what you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
And I was like, I can't. And when I finally decided to step into it, it was 8, 9 years later.
Hmm.
But I'm so glad that my nudges didn't go away. Now, it's not to say that when I started, I didn't have some bumps and bruises. I really had to rid myself of a lot of limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's still time. It's always time. As long as you can breathe,
Right.
there's time.
Right. Those limiting beliefs are really wild because you have to sit in some uncomfortable feelings. And that's the thing that people don't want to do. And
Hmm.
part of um, going through something powerful and important, you do have to face those kind of fears, those things where you thought, oh, I love myself. But then when you really just kind of think about it and think about, why you behave the way you behave, you'd be like, oh, like I guess I do have that issue. You've been masking it with something else. So to sit in that discomfort is actually really interesting. And I'll give you like this example, like this week, like I mentioned, I've been doing the money manifestations, and as I sit there and I listen to and I'm really just breathing and kind of just like meditating, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh wow, like I actually low key have a problem with money. Like I'm like, oh snap. Like, whenever I think about large amounts of money, or I think about, spending money, or I think about, making money, it's always this tense feeling that goes along with it that I have to address and that I have to
Hmm.
sit with. And then I have to sit with and sit with until we can smooth it out. So it's not just something that you sit with like for 5 minutes, like, oh, I'm fine, it's good. Like you really have to just face it and sit with it and understand it. And that's the most difficult and uncomfortable feeling because your body like manifests these, it's tense, your brain hurts and all these things because of what's going on in here. It's happening on the outside. So it's been an interesting journey to try to get over that. And it's a big hindrance too, but
Yeah.
it is
Procrastination.
100%, 100%.
I always like to do a body scan. One thing I do every day,
Mm,
I do a body scan. And with my body scan, it's usually I'm outside, I'm somewhere, outside, or I'm walking, finishing up my walk, but I'm still outside. And I stop at the top of my head and I just say, what is bothering you? And I just let that thought come.
yeah, yeah.
Then I come down to my heart and I say, how can I fix it?
Hmm, hmm.
And I let whatever thought comes that tells me to fix it.
Right.
And
Okay.
then I go down to my tummy and I'm like, oh, what stress is this causing? What do you need to do? And I'll send some deep breaths there and I'll take a moment there, and I scan my body to see where the tension is. A lot of times the tension is in my knees, believe it or not. And I rub my knees and I say, but I'm okay, but I'm okay. And when I finish that body scan, I do my statue pose. I stand there and I thank God for giving me the ability to do it, to have these working limbs and these arms and this functioning brain. And then I start walking and I'm like, wow, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was, because then that's when the clarity comes and the solution follows. Because sometimes we are so caught up in what we really want to do, we miss the solution that's there within us.
Hmm.
And it's not uncommon to have that internal dialogue, because sometimes sitting still is the internal dialogue that you're having within yourself, that you're having with yourself, and you're coming up with a solution,
Hmm.
you know. And I do it all the time. I do it every day. And some days when I know that my heart is hurting because of an incident or something that's going on, I'll just stand there and take some breaths there and hold my heart and let myself know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right, you know. But it happens. But a body scan, I usually do that. I do the body scan every day because I know that something from the day before, or maybe the week before, is trying to creep in.
Yeah.
And I don't have time for that. I gotta keep going. I gotta
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that's really good, the body scan, because not only, are you taking the time to just pay attention to it, it's like we can go on for months and weeks and not know what's going on because
Mhm,
nobody's paid attention to our body. Like we haven't paid
mhm,
attention to it. Like the pain is there, and you're like, oh snap, I didn't realize that this was hurting until you.
Ignored it. We won't
Yeah, so
ignore it.
beautiful.
I don't have time to have this pain. I don't have time.
Mm-mm. No, me neither.
You know, but you really can't ignore it. You got to listen to your body. One of the episodes on the end of June, a 6:30 episode was with a hypnotist, and she talked about listening to your body, because the smartest thing you could do is listen to your body because it knows a lot. And the question I asked her, I said, "What advice would you give your younger self?" She was like, "To listen to my body." She said, "Because as when we're children and we're small, we listen to our bodies. If we don't want to eat, we be like, no, I'm not hungry right now.
Mhm.
No, I feel bad, but I think I can get up and do this." We're listening. And then somewhere along the way, life gets busy. And we have a long list of things and we stop listening.
Yeah, and that's in like what we do for school and working, like oh, you can't go to the bathroom, we're doing this lesson, so now you're not listening to your bladder. Or oh, it's customer service, the customer is always right, so now you're not listening to that tense feeling in your heart, and you're when you're trying to express yourself, you can't express yourself, you got to stuff it down. Like there's just society kind of just makes us not listen to what we were intuitively meant to listen to. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's just we do have to get back to that. And it takes, what is it, I don't know if that, I cannot quote it correctly, but it takes us a lifetime to learn how to be a kid again. And I
Yes.
can't remember where that comes from, but it does. Like we're kids and then we grow up to be adults and then we have to learn how to be a kid again. Like it's just really ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful too. I wish I'll be spending some time, children later on, but I haven't really spent time with kids, and I think that kind of sucks because there's so much to learn from them, just
Mhm.
interacting with life, like you said, that just you watch them, say exactly how they feel. Like, oh, do you think I look pretty? No, not really.
No, not
Like,
really. Yeah.
oh, okay.
He's like, what? And like, but you ask. You know?
Yeah, they're
It's
just.
really about just listening and being intuitive and, listening to your intuitive self, listening
Mhm.
to your body,
Mm.
and I love that you mentioned that, because one of the things that you talked about was self actualization. And I was like, all right, go ahead on now. I know I'm going to ask a question about this one. Share with us what that means for you.
So, self-actualization really, you have like the Maslow's hierarchy,
Mhm, hierarchy of needs, yes.
all those things. And self-actualization is at the top, and it's a small little triangle. And I feel like I can't say it's the most important because obviously we do need food and shelter on all those things, but it's just as important as the food and shelter and all those things. Otherwise, you're kind of walking around like a zombie. I feel that self actualization personally just means waking up and enjoying not only my friends, not only my family, but my atmosphere and what I do. And that I'm able to encourage and help other people in what I like to do that is authentic to me. And it seems very simple, right? And you can do that in your everyday, but it's also very uncomfortable because you have a lot of shifts that have to be made. And I feel like a lot of people don't reach the self actualization because of the discomfort, and it's downplayed a lot. Um, you hear all the time, like, mostly from those like big bulky guys, right? Who like are lifting those weights and like you gotta get uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, this is too much. This is a lot. But it's true. And I'm not big and bulky. I'm just here to tell you, like,
But it's right. It's okay if you don't feel right. If you got to puke, go ahead.
those people.
And
And
you're
you're just
like,
like, oh,
but
this is
I
too
don't
much.
want to. That doesn't feel good.
know exactly what it's like. The saturation is all like super bright. Like, you know what I'm talking about. But like it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And like I also, even as women, right, we're kind of fragile. We're strong, right? We're very strong. We do a lot of things necessarily for, like, our family, for ourselves, for our offspring, for everything. But it is uncomfortable in that gritty way. Like, you have to push yourself, not just to work for your family, because at the same time that's in us. So that's what's pushing us, is because it's in us to make our family happy. It's in us to, want to help other people. But sometimes to help ourselves is not always in us. You have to find that somewhere. And
Yeah,
that's
it's like buried under cobwebs.
oh man, like it's just not on the surface. and and that grit, that hard, like, sprout that you have to go through, is very uncomfortable. It's very, very uncomfortable, but that's necessary for the self actualization that not a lot of people talk about. Especially with blogging, you read a lot of, like, when I first started blogging, you read a lot of, I made 30K in
Oh,
3 months,
yes.
and you can do it too, right? It was so
In a
easy,
weekend.
right? And it's like, yeah, it's easy. And I've had my blog for 2 years. And I just, oh my gosh, it's been
Yes.
so much work. It's been so much accountability, so much organization, because I'm not organized. I had to force myself to get a planner. I had to force myself to be like, okay, you have got to get on Instagram. Stop taking, like, you got to get back on there, sis. Like, you have to force yourself to put, like, just do things that are so uncomfortable, very difficult,
Mhm.
very hard, to put yourself first and be like, you know what, I can't do this right now for you, the person that I love, but I really do have to put myself first. It's hard, it's difficult, it's consistent, it's a lot, and you have to want it. And not just from that person who is lifting 40 pounds a day, or whatever, however much they're lifting. I don't know, I'm not sure.
It's funny that you should mention that. You blog almost every day. Like, you're dropping blogs more frequently than I was. I started my blog a couple years ago too, and I was only dropping a blog post once a week.
Mhm.
And content creation, to put it out there on social, it's a lot. It's a lot, because when you write, you're in this zone. It's like a trance.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the moment you're interrupted and someone snatches you out of that trance, it's hard to get back there to
Mhm.
finish what you're writing.
Mhm.
So I had hiding spots. I would be in my car. I knew at Tuesday at 4 o'clock, this is what I was doing,
Right. 100%. Like, you
because
have,
that's where my mind went. Like,
right.
I know I got a block.
Right. It's literally, I carry my computer around with me all over the place. Even if
Mhm.
I'm not using it, it's in my bag. Like, I had to carry it around with me. And even if I'm not blogging, I just started a YouTube channel. So I'm recording, I'm editing, I'm pinning, what else am I? I'm doing other things. I don't know what else I'm doing, but I'm always busy. Like, I'm making a
Oh, yes.
newsletter. Like,
Pinning was a thing for me too. I had a YouTube channel. I still have one.
mhm,
I have not uploaded since I started podcasting.
mhm,
One of the things that I learned, when I really had the idea to really get serious and monetize, I learned that I didn't know anything about marketing. I thought I knew about marketing. I
mhm,
thought it would be simple,
mhm,
but there were so many hit and misses. And what was passionate for me wasn't translating well. So you learn a lot in that process. I still blog. I only drop a blog a month now because of the podcast and different things like that. But that moment when I write and the words jump off the page and you can hear the words just jumping off the page, it's like they're singing.
right.
I'm like, this is it. it's euphoric for me because I love that.
Yeah, and that's
I love
important.
it.
You can't be a blogger if you don't like to write, and that's the unfortunate part about it.
Yes. It's so interesting. I can go back and read a post and I hear the voice of the time that I'm writing about. I hear my voice from that moment in
Mhm.
time, so I do. It's something, it's very different. It's like you go into a trance. I
Yeah,
don't know how many times I've been in a trance and someone has been talking to me and I didn't hear them
right.
because all I heard were the words on the page.
And that's beautiful because you're the one who, like, somebody else is receiving exactly what you're putting, in there. Maybe it's like not a lot of people get or understand it, but there's somebody you're specifically talking to, and they're like, "Oh, I felt this. Like I understood
Mm,
this. Really resonated with this." And yeah, even with the marketing that you mentioned, it takes, I didn't realize how much I didn't
mhm.
know about it either. And when you get advice a lot of the times from people like, "Oh, follow my step, do exactly as I did and you'll do it."
Yes.
And I feel like every business with some, and this was a hard lesson I had to learn too, which I'm still learning. Every business, everything that you have is a thumbprint. And so what somebody else does is not going to work for you. It's just not. It's not. And you have what you do may not work for other people.
Mhm.
To make money off of it, right? Because they, as long as people believe that they can do it, like, sure, you can make money off of it and tell, yeah, do it exactly as I did. But at the same time, it's still a thumbprint. Like, what you have is so unique to you, your niche. I tried to do a podcast, I couldn't. I gotta do it because after the third person of me talking, I'd be like, oh, like I don't know, I would get so lost. But for me, like, I love doing Pinterest and I love, doing the blog. And even with my YouTube, it's something that I can kind of just do easily because I'm really good at public speaking. So it's kind of natural to me. But with other people, they're like, oh yeah, like I have to, write a script and follow the script. It's just so, everything for your business is so unique to you. So it's what somebody gives you, you always have to take it with a grain of salt. And I did not know that. I really thought I could just replicate somebody's process and it'll work exactly for me. And it's not, it doesn't work that way. So that is definitely another hard lesson to learn about success and progress that I wish somebody told me. Yeah, I, even with my YouTube, I'm good at public speaking, and that might not be somebody else's
Mhm.
forte or niche. And so, I just wish somebody would have told me that their process is not always exactly replicable. You do have to take somebody's advice, and of course, some of it works, maybe a lot of it works, but you do have to take it with a grain of salt and personalize it to work for you. And I didn't really know that as,
I didn't
somebody
either.
doing that. Yeah, like you
I
think.
had to learn that, and, like, now it comes easier.
Mhm.
I would like to say it comes a little easier, but that would be really downplaying the growth that I've seen, in myself as far as being an entrepreneur, over this time frame. The growth is there, and I love, love, love to interact with other entrepreneurs because sometimes they say something and you're like your mind is blown because you're like, "Wait a minute, is that simple?"
Yeah, yeah.
All this time I've been. So, yeah, it is something that I I love the fact that I can still learn and that I
Mhm.
love to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
was a good student in school, and I was a nerd. I gave myself homework over the summer. Like, I was wild. I was in the third grade assigning myself projects. So, like, I'm happy that part of that is still with me to this day, because even as I'm if I'm blogging or if I'm studying for designing my course or whatever I'm doing, the what helps me is to pretend it's homework, and that won't help somebody else because they probably hate.
Yeah, you're like, "I don't want it to be homework." I
Yeah.
love to learn. My girlfriend I had a friend my friend, we've been friends since we were 19, and I said, "Okay, um" I want to be an aromatherapist. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do that. She was like, well, didn't you just finish something else? I said, yeah, I just finished my practitioner's, my certificate for positive psychology. She was like, girl, you love school. You never going to get out. And I was like, why you got to read me like that? It's nice to have a schedule for my homework.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. It's the structure of school that I'm attracted to. Like my life is so unstable. Like school was so like stable for me. And so I just treat it like that. I'm here. I get you. Get it.
What advice would you give your younger self to help cultivate self trust?
Um, I think for my younger self, um, I think she did the best she could. I really do. I don't have any changes, and I kind of live my life like with no regrets. Not to say I haven't, like, whatever. That wasn't a question, but I think she did the best she could. I There was a staple moment in my life. I think I was 20, and I was probably in a really terrible relationship. And I remember I was going through a lot of things, and there was this staple moment where I would drive to work, and I couldn't hear my own thoughts. I
Mm.
would always call somebody on the phone. I would listen to music. I would, like, anytime I had to make a decision, I had to talk to three people. And out of the three people, I would take the median of that decision and I would make the decision. And I realized that was problematic. And one of my friends, she was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what do you think is best? And I was like, me. Like, I'm not qualified to, to decide my own life. Like, I'm not qualified. That was the most uh grounding experience, kind of one of those, like, retrospective or whatever, you look at yourself and you're like, oh, like I have to change. Like
Mhm.
I can't hear myself. I think that I don't trust my decisions. And so I think I took the necessary steps, which was journaling. I couldn't afford therapy. I went to one therapy session, and I didn't go to the therapy session for therapy. I went to the therapy session to see how she was going to give me therapy so I can give myself therapy later. And I think I'll do that. But I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna have insurance. I'm gonna write these questions down. I'm gonna see how you're asking these questions, and I'm gonna ask them to myself later. Like, heck no. Like, no. So that one therapy session lasted for years. Like, what? What? Um, yeah. So I think my younger self did the best she could. And honestly, the only thing I would just tell her to do is keep going. Like, that's really it. I applaud my younger self. And a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people can say that, or maybe they can. I'm not really sure. But I applaud, like, all the things that she went through. Some of them are a little spicy, a little crazy. She did some crazy things, but she did pretty well. She didn't stay down too long. She didn't overstay her welcome. In certain situations or certain areas, she ripped off the band-aid when she knew it was time. She journaled when she felt like she didn't know what to do or where to go. If she needed direction, she fasted. She prayed. So I think my younger self, I applaud her. I don't know if I can give her any better advice than what she's already done for my current self. Um,
Mm.
and that's an interesting question, and that's an interesting answer to
I
it.
ask everyone, at least every other month, I compile all of the answers and I
Mhm.
have my question and I make a reel around it
Oh.
because it'll be one person that hears one thing from the
Mhm.
ladies and that's it.
Right.
you know? And to me, that's joy. I may not see or touch or speak to everyone who looks at the content and it impacted them in some way,
Mhm.
but it's the idea of knowing that it's possible that keeps me hopeful.
Mm. So let me ask you this. What was your favorite answer to that question? Like, who answered it to a way where, like, this was my favorite answer?
Hmm. I think I really don't have one favorite one. I actually resonate with a lot of the ladies and their responses. Yours is a little different because I have not had anyone say, I would applaud her. She did the best she could. And I have an affirmation card that says, I'm doing the best that I can. And I think that comes with celebrating ourselves. When you haven't celebrated yourself in a long time, you've forgotten how,
Mhm.
then it's hard to say, I tell her she did the best she could. I know I'm doing the best I can. Your answer is always, what can I do better?
Yeah.
Why don't I have this right? But the answer should be, I'm doing the best I can. Small steps are still progress.
Hmm.
I'm grateful to be here. And I always talk about gratitude attitude, the three things. What are you grateful for in your life? What are you grateful for your week? And what are you grateful for today?
Hmm.
Because we need to celebrate ourselves, celebrate learning from the mistake, the choice that wasn't the best choice. You know, let's celebrate it
Yeah.
because you've learned. Love of learning.
Yeah. 100%. Look at us nerds. We love to learn. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
It has been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thank
I
you.
know that you are looking to go to France, but I hope you stay in touch. You come
Yeah,
back on
definitely. Oh, I would love it.
and you just keep lighting up the world. Your blog is phenomenal. Yes, I was peeping it out. I went on it and I read. I did a lot of reading there
Thank
and I
you.
was so impressed. You keep up the good work. Keep bringing this joy into the world. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It was lots of fun. I had a great time.
All right, me timers, you heard it here first with me time with Mind Escape Vibe. Where it is your time to be kind to your mind. Have a great day.